Strabo, kako ste, što praviš, merhaba. Those were the three languages that I'm surrounded by. Macedonian, in Burmese, and Moroccan. First of all, I'd like to thank you guys so much and tell you how much I love your hats. The hats, everyone wears different hats in our lives. We have maybe doctors' hats, we have teachers' hats, maybe we're an accountant. We've all been daughters, maybe mothers, grandmothers, maybe you've been part of the Red Hat Society. Today, I'm going to be able to tell you all the different hats that I've worn in my life. Over the last 5 years, I've been teaching in different parts of the world. 5 years ago, to this day, this is actually my 5-year anniversary of living abroad. On September 10th, 2011, I joined the Peace Corps. Then, after Peace Corps, I was addicted to travel. And so I moved to Myanmar. I might get a little bit confused with the M, so. I moved to Myanmar. I was teaching as a 4th grade teacher there. Then I moved to Morocco, and I was teaching as a 5th grade teacher there. So before I start, I want to tell you that one of my pure hobbies is filmography and photography. So I have been making these films throughout these different lives that I've been leading. And I want to show you my experiences through these films and these photos. So the first one is just showing the juxtaposition between all these different countries. So I'd like to warmly welcome you with this first video. So as Barb said, many of you know me. I was baptized in this church when I was 27 months old. I was in youth group, I was in bells, I was in choir. I did everything. I was the St. Matthew's Renaissance woman. And I loved it. You guys were my rock. You made me who I am today, and I want to thank you, and this is the perfect place to say it, because all of these things that I've done never would have happened if I wasn't at St. Matthew's, and I truly believe that, because this church is just, it made me the volunteer I was, the teacher I was. As Ken even said when I joined the Peace Corps, he said, well, she's got that St. Matthew's DNA in her. After I went to college, I went to the University of Virginia, and I didn't stop my culture anymore. Home was not home, and I was confused. I was hard to relate to people, trying to tell them my stories about red one page. Now, my second page would be Myanmar. Myanmar, also known as Burma, and just in the last 2 or 3 years, it's opened. So I was one of the first foreigners there, and frowning culture. You had to work to get it out of them. Myanmar, they smiled at you as you walked down the street. I went to the Monkey Mountain, played with monkeys there. I was at the temples with the snake that they believe the Buddha is in. Now I had found my gift, and the purpose of life was to give it away. My gift was making people happy and bringing people together, making people get out of the box, be spontaneous, do something that they had never done before. Now I have my first class. My first class in Macedonia, I was just teaching English. Now I had 27 students of my own, Chinese and Burmese. And I was teaching math, science, social studies, things I'd never done before with my architecture degree. My teaching philosophy is life skills, to encourage creativity, to encourage being courageous and outgoing, to bring people, again, out of their box, to have people be able to do this, stand in front of a stage and talk. I had talent shows, I had fashion shows. We did a ton of different things. The challenge, though, was that in the Peace Corps, I was teaching the impoverished. I was teaching kids that I knew needed me. Now I was teaching the rich kids. And at first that was really hard for me. I didn't understand, maybe they didn't need me as much. Maybe I wasn't as important to them, what I was doing. But then I realized students who are loved at home, they come to school to learn. And students who aren't, they come to school to be loved. These students, they may have had rich parents, but that meant that they weren't always there. They were absent from their lives a lot. And I made that family. I was that second mother. And I want to show you a little bit about the kids and my rich students to the orphanages. And then we started working at the orphanages. We would teach English once a week and sometimes even dance a little bit to keep up their spirits. And then we started just bringing crayons down to the water and just drawing with the kids there, the ones that weren't in the orphanage but that were still living in the shacks by the river. What was amazing though, and these orphanages, they were all run by the Buddhist nuns. And that was another thing I wanted to mention, that I was living in a 99% Buddhist community, Buddhist country. And it was quite amazing. One time I was teaching Buddhism. I was teaching all the religions in social studies class, and we came upon Buddhism. And I said, God, this is so good. Now, guys, you get to teach me Buddhism. And they said, this is my kids, they said, well, there's a prince, Siddhartha. And I said, okay, yeah, and that was all they knew. It was similar to the Eastern Orthodox. They didn't know their own religion. And so I started teaching Buddhism to Buddhists. I was teaching about the Eightfold Path and karma and dharma and nirvana, telling them all this about their own religion. The Buddhism in Myanmar, I also had an assistant teacher. And of all the different assistant teachers, she was Christian, the one Christian out of school. And she brought me to my church. She was so excited that I was Christian. She brought me to my church in Myanmar. And we shared our faith right there, two Christians in a 99% Buddhist community. Myanmar, I ended Myanmar, and I traveled on my way back. I went to Chiang Mai, saw tigers. I lived in a tree house in Laos and did zip lining from tree to tree for 3 days. I even rode elephants in Thailand. I went bungee jumping in Laos. And I even met the locals in Indonesia. Scuba dived in New Zealand. Saw Komodo dragons in Indonesia. And climbed my first mountain that would eventually inspire me to go to Kilimanjaro, which was this year. It was an inactive volcano, and I just read on the news it erupted last week. And finally I went skydiving in New Zealand. I stayed home for 2 weeks, and then I went to Morocco. I was teaching 5th grade in Morocco. It was my dream, always, as I said, to live in Africa. And here I was living in Africa. But it wasn't quite Africa. It wasn't traditional Africa. They say something about Morocco, a quote, that Morocco is a tree, and its roots are in Africa, but its branches extend towards Europe. And that's how I felt. There was a feel of exotic landscape, especially in Marrakesh. You would be walking down the streets in the dust and the chaos, motorcycles, markets, snake charmers in the square, and then you would enter a doorway, and you would see this luxurious oasis. You would be in mosaics and atrium spaces. It was that juxtaposition that made it so exotic. Moroccan people are so warm. I fell in love with both the Muslims and the Islamic culture. There was the Moroccan women. They were so powerful. And yes, they were reserved and modest. And I got all this reserved, modest clothing when I went over there. But it's more modern there than you think. They would wear jalabas and burqas. But you should have seen the colors and the fashion that they had on it. I mean, even at their wedding, the woman changes clothes 7 times during the wedding. I kind of want to adopt that for my wedding. And I love the quote, and I think it just speaks to Muslim women, especially in this more modern society, is that the man may be the head, but the woman is the neck, and she can move the head wherever she wants. There was unrestricted travel too. In Myanmar, I was a little bit restricted because there was the military government, and the edges of Myanmar were a little bit dangerous. But in Morocco, we went everywhere, from the Atlas Mountains, skiing on the top, to the Sahara Desert, where me and my mom actually fell off a camel, so be careful. And then even to the coast of the Mediterranean, as well as the Atlantic. And I just want to show this quick video of the blue city of Morocco to just let you get a feel of the beautiful architecture and the archways, and just the feel of some of this country. So I'm teaching 5th grade, going out in the world. And there were only 15 students from my 27 to 15. So I really got to know who each one of them were. And I had so many different students. I had Chinese and Burmese in Myanmar. I had an international class. There was some from Belgium, from Syria, from France, from India, from America, and also from Morocco. It was amazing, and I will always think that that quote of, they may forget what you said, but they will never forget the way you make them feel. And it was a very emotional year. It was the first time I dealt with bullying and fighting, actually. But I became a peacemaker, not quite like the Peace Corps, but a different kind. And maybe it was because there were so many different, we were like the United Nations here, but it was also just because maybe they were hitting puberty. It was amazing though, and we did so many round-the-world fairs, fashion shows, a full-scale musical on caring, and even found our first scorpion on an overnight trip. I also was, at most of these places, I put on filmmaking clubs for the kids. So I wanted to show you a film that these kids actually directed themselves. I just was there in the background and maybe helped a little with the editing and stuff. I did Ramadan for 3 days. You know, Ramadan's such an amazing time. The Muslims, they wake up at 3:15 and they have breakfast because at 3:30 the fasting starts. And they don't drink water or eat anything till 7:30 at night. And that's when they have this iftar. And they break the fast with their family. And when they do that, because I never traveled around Africa. I only went to Europe. It was really cheap to fly from Marrakesh to anywhere in Europe, but it was really expensive to go anywhere else in Africa. And to live in Africa was my dream, but I'd never seen anything. So during the summer, I saw Africa. And the first thing was to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. When I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, it took 6 days to climb it. We had a guide each, me and my friend climbed it, a guide each, a chef, and 8 porters coming with us. So it was quite a team. Every day, it's hard because you're trying to acclimate yourself to the altitude. The altitude at the top, and even as you go up, can make you sick. People were getting sick right there on the mountain. So what you would do is you would hike up. They say, go high, sleep low. And so you would do these hikes during the day that you wouldn't even be going anywhere. The only reason you were hiking for hours was just so you would go higher and then come back and sleep just where you left at the altitude. The final day came for the summit. And I'll give you a warning, I'm not actually a great hiker. And when the guide came to me, usually what happens is people leave at midnight. They leave at midnight and they get there at sunrise. Well, my guide came to me and said, Julie, you have to leave at 10 p.m. because of your slow pace. But we got there, we got to the top, and it was gorgeous. Now, when we came back down, we tried to save some money. So we came back down from the top all the way to the bottom of the mountain in the same day. So I was hiking from 10 p.m. to 9 p.m. the next day. I can tell you, for the next travel, we went to Zanzibar, an island off the coast of Tanzania. And I was hobbling for 5 days. So I got $5 massages on the beach to get rid of that. Now, on my trip home, I went to South Africa, going to the Cape of Good Hope. We went to shark cage diving, which was fine until it bit the cage. We walked with lions at a reserve in Zimbabwe, and we even went on a self-drive African safari. Now, one of my favorite things though at the end of my trip was I was able to visit the Michelot mission. with Michelle Peters, Nancy Capel, Carol Trost, Jim King, and Scott Bailey. I felt a little guilty. Some of you may have heard of the Michelin mission. I felt a little bit guilty because on the day that I arrived, they were taking their break on an African safari. So I got to see an African safari with them, and then I went to St. Joseph's. It was the most amazing place. If you don't know, there are disabled kids and mainstream kids at the same community, the same school. And the bond that they have, the community that they build is so beautiful. Getting emotional there. It's so beautiful that they have this no judgment. It's a society of no judgment. Now, Nancy Capel, she was the one that really taught me how to, for all of you, I wouldn't have done these things. So really, you have lived through me in all these places. I want to end with one last video. I've talked a lot about